Welcome back to Automation, where we talk about smart home products and services on this special show on the channel. So in our previous episode, we talked about how we install Yeelights in our office, and I've been using this for about almost a month already, and this is the first product that we are going to review. So this is the Yeelight Arwen R900, which is the largest Yeelight ceiling light that we have ever got in the office. It is super bright, and we have actually got one up there right now, but I've just taken one down to show you guys how it actually looks like, and I'm going to go through a hardware overview and to show you guys on how I install it up, and followed by the features of the smart lighting. So let's get to it right now. Now, the Yeelight R900 is a really big rectangular light, as you can see right over here. Now, in terms of size, the width is about 94.5 cm and the height is about 64.5 cm. So you get the idea on how big it really is if you want to install it up onto your ceiling. Now, in terms of power consumption, Yeelight rates up to 95 watts of maximum power, and this light can cover up to a room size of 35 square meters. So that's actually a pretty large room. So if you have a room that's this kind of size, then this is the perfect smart light for you. Now, let's just take out this casing right over here and show you guys the internals. So this plastic casing is held by 10 clips on the back, which you will need to turn all of this up to actually release the casing out of the light, alright? So you have both the module and the casing, so it's not an all-in-one device here. So let's do it right now. So once we've got all these clips turned up, the casing comes off really easily, just like this. Now, this is actually very useful because over the past 3 weeks when I've been using this R900 in our studio, the internals of the casing does get a little bit dirty, so you do actually find some dirt outside when you turn on the light, and that can be frustrating for a long term if you intend to use this probably outdoors or probably inside your room. Dust might actually get in and you might find this casing to be dirty, and that's definitely one way that you want to take it out and clean it, all right? So this is how the internals of the R900 looks like. It has 48 pieces of LED bulbs in 4 columns, and this is why it is so bright. In terms of the color temperature range, it can go from 2700K to 6500K, and that's actually a pretty standard range for any LED bulbs out there with cool and warm color temperatures, all right? So this is the LED driver of the Yeelight R900, which is a proprietary one, and you can't easily get this else anywhere. So just in case if your driver needs to get replaced in a couple of years, because LED lights do wear out after a couple of years, and the most common issue is that the driver is wearing out. So if you happen to face that problem, you will need to send back to Yeelight Malaysia to have this replaced. So in the occasion when your drivers start to wear out, you will need to send back to Yeelight Malaysia, or you can probably just call their helpline and they'll send someone to replace this thing at a cost. So over here, you'll find another 2 metal clips to secure the Yeelight R900 onto your ceiling. As you can see, there's a lock and unlock printing right over here to tell whether it is in a lock or unlock position. And finally, this latch right over here is the final thing that secures it onto the ceiling, and when you press down, the light basically comes down, and it is that simple. So right on the back here, it is in fact an entire metal plate that makes up the Yeelight R900. You do actually get some sponges over here as a support for the Yeelight R900 when you mount it onto your ceiling. So I do recommend that you take this off because they are actually pretty good support that probably wouldn't damage the entire body, just in case you're worried about scratches and so on. Yep, so these sponges are already prefixed, so you don't need to do anything at all. So next, we're going to install the Yeelight R900 up to the ceiling, and we're going to turn it on and show you some of the features. So if you remember in our previous automation video, we do have to install this round frame on top of the ceiling by drilling 2 holes and affixing 2 screws before putting up the Yeelight R900. And this is a very standard bracket that pretty much every Yeelight ceiling light has, and that's a pretty amazing thing that Yeelight has done there. So what we're going to do now is to just align it properly onto the top. See, it turns on already, and we're just going to lock this thing to further secure it, because in fact it is already secured by this orange cutter switch right over here, but we're just going to tighten this anyway. And next is to put up that casing, all right, otherwise known as the diffuser casing. Okay, make sure it aligns it properly, and finally just simply secure it with this remaining 10 plastic clips, all right? All right, and we are done. Now we do realize that I actually did something just now, which is to twist the light here vertically or even in horizontal mode. So when you have the light fixed up on your ceiling, you can still turn it around, which is actually something that's pretty amazing and something that you wouldn't find on other lighting solutions. And this is one thing that I'm super impressed with the R900. Now let's get into the settings of the R900. So this is basically what you see when you successfully set it up within the Yeelight app, right? So you get 3 tabs here, the recommend, sun, and moon tab. So the recommend tab here already gives you a couple of light presets, which is very useful if you don't want to go and think about settings and so on. So you get sunrise, this is how it looks like. You get sunset, and you get dressing. This is like a warm and super bright lighting, which is good if you want to put on makeup on yourself. And this is the reading light, and it is the most energetic kind of lighting preset if you want to do reading in your room. Now this slider here allows you to adjust the brightness of the light depending on how bright or how dim you want to. All right, now let's head on over to the sun tab. Now this is interesting because it's like a color palette here where you can actually set the color temperature of the R900. So let's go to the bottom left here. So this is how warm the light can go into, and this is how cool. It's like totally cool white on this light right now. So it's actually pretty cool. You can just adjust to the kind of lighting temperature that you want. And finally, the moon tab here is basically a night light. So there's basically no settings around here, but you just basically control the slider on how dim or how bright you want the moonlight to be. So basically, if you set it to like 0, it basically just turns off everything. Even if you go to like level 100, it's just a dim yellow light that's shining on top. So let's get back to the dressing light, because this is my favorite light preset basically. And let's check out other settings here. Now there's an eject button right over here because it totally looks like a eject button, right? So here are some of the settings that the R900 can do. So under here you get a couple of preset color temperatures from 2700K up to 6500K, but usually I would love to leave it like around 4000K because that's like the kind of lighting that I like in the studio. So you get to save this particular scene into your favorites by tapping this star icon here. Name your state if you want to, and you get to have the schedule feature here. Now, this is how I schedule my R900 every day for these 2 lights. So you got to set this manually one by one. Even if you have them grouped together, you can configure this kind of setting in groups, right? So right over here, I actually set these lights to automatically turn on every day at 8:30 a.m. in this particular scene, is in the reading scene, or you can personally just set it to a custom light if you actually want to, right? Let me just show you that. Turn on and customize light. So I can set it to a sun or moon setting depending on how I want to do so. And let's go up to the other one. So at 6 p.m. I will automatically have these lights turn off because that's when we get off work. Now, there are other interesting settings within the app, such as the remote control and switch. So I've basically paired it to a remote control where I can simply just use it to manually control the lighting temperature or to turn on and off the light. And that's very interesting. The remote already comes inside the box, so you do not need to purchase the remote separately. Now, another interesting feature is the Mi Band feature. Personally, I have not tried this, but you can basically pair the R900 to a Mi Band. So when it detects that you are already sleeping, it will automatically turn off when you fall asleep. And that's something that's very interesting, and it's one way of Xiaomi proving that its ecosystem works. As you guys know, Yeelight is previously under Xiaomi's ecosystem of companies, right? So that's an interesting feature that Yeelight has done over here, supports the Mi Band specifically, right? So there's also firmware update and LAN control and some other settings right over here, such as the flex switch. So if you happen to have a Xiaomi smart switch, a Xiaomi enabled smart switch inside your home, even when the light is off in terms of the switch, you can still configure the lighting settings through online when you use this flex switch feature. So that's something that's pretty interesting because, as I mentioned, Yeelight used to be part of Xiaomi, and they've basically done all these integrations really well. So that's all for this episode of Automation, where we check out the Yeelight Arwen R900. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and be sure to subscribe to us for more automation episodes, and we'll see you guys in our next one.